This is Delegate Tim Manchin, and I wanted to start first with a little bit of an explanation about what my position is in the legislature and how bills become law, because all of that's very much intertwined with each other. I chair the Judiciary Committee, and the Judiciary Committee is one of 5 major committees in the House of Delegates. There are 25 members. It's almost balanced evenly between Democrats and Republicans. It's based on the percentages of each in the House. The Judiciary Committee generally handles just about all the major social issues and many governmental issues that come before the legislature. There are other bills that might be only related to finance, which would go to finance, or other bills to other committees, but most of the major policy changes that you'll hear about usually come through the Judiciary Committee. My job as chairman of that committee is to determine and cipher through the roughly 3,000 or 4,000 bills that come before the legislature every year and determine which ones should actually move forward and be given committee time. The committee itself only meets approximately 3 to 6 times per week, and it'll meet anywhere from maybe an hour to sometimes late in the session as long as 6 or 7 hours. But there's a limited amount of time. We typically meet on Monday afternoons, Tuesday mornings, Tuesday afternoons, Thursday morning, Thursday afternoons, sometimes on Friday. And so there's only so many bills that you can take up in a 60-day session, and that's all that we're in at the legislature for. Perhaps I should talk about how a bill becomes law. Typically what has to happen is a legislature either gets contacted by a constituent, or he sees something in the newspaper or hears something on the news that he thinks would be good public policy and good for the state of West Virginia and good for West Virginians. He will then take that issue to bill drafting, and there are a lot of lawyers in bill drafting. It's down in legislative services, and he'll tell them what kind of bill he wants drafted, and they will write up that bill, and then they'll send it up to that legislator to see whether he likes the language and whether it does what he wants it to do. That legislator can then contact other legislators and see if they'd like to co-sponsor the bill with him. Once that's been done, then he sends that bill back down to bill drafting, and they produce a final version, and it is then read on the House floor. Once it's read on the House floor, or introduced, I should say, it's then referred to a committee. Most pieces of legislation will be referred to 2 committees. First, they'll be referred to a minor committee, and there are a number of other minor committees in the House, too many for me to go through, but you might have one on political subdivisions, or on roads and transportation, or constitutional revision. There are a number of those. So depending on what the subject matter of the bill, it'll usually go to a minor committee first, then it'll be referred to a major committee. And those major committees are the Judiciary Committee, Finance, Education, Government Organization, and Health. So it has to pass through both of those committees. If the minor committee chairman doesn't think that it's a good bill, or that there's not enough support for it, or that it doesn't merit his committee's attention, he won't put it on the agenda, and that usually is just about the end of the bill. Same thing can happen once it comes out of the minor committee. And because the committee process is where we spend all of our real time learning about bills and trying to refine those bills and make them better bills, those chairmen of those committees and the committee members can figure out whether or not that's a bill that really ought to move forward. Sometimes it's just not time. There are too many issues, too many different parties that are involved, and you can't get everybody together to write a good bill. Most of the time, it takes about 3 legislative sessions to get a bill passed. It takes just about that long to get the parties together to finally be able to come with language that they really like and then proceed with the bill. So it takes quite a while, although it can happen on a major piece in just 1 week. If it gets through both of those committees, it's then reported to the floor on one day. It is then read for 3 successive days. On the second day is when members have a right on the floor of the House of Delegates, that's with all 100 legislators, to then amend the bill. They can propose amendments. Those amendments will be read on the floor. They'll have an opportunity to explain what the purpose of their amendment is, and they'll have an opportunity to argue in favor of that amendment. And a vote will then be taken, and just depending on whether or not the amendment passes or fails, it may or may not become part of the bill. Upon the third reading of the bill, a final vote will be taken on whether to pass the bill. If the bill is not passed, it dies. If it is passed, it will then be sent over to the West Virginia Senate, and they will then have to go through the same process. So you can see why it takes about 3 years a lot of times to get a bill through. But those are most of what we consider the process and procedures for getting a bill passed. In closing, I'd just like to remind you that I'm very interested in your issues and your concerns and your suggestions. We'll have contact information posted at the end of this video where you can feel free to contact my office, leave a message. A lot of times I can't get back to you personally on those, but I'll try to always either respond by email or have a staff member contact you. So please do so. Thank you.